Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Steve Hoare. This is the Uncensored match build-up ahead of Tottenham Hotspur versus Liverpool. Sunday, 4:30 at the aptly named Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They need to box that off. Daniel Levy's desperate to sell their names for that one. Yep, I'm joined by Dan Clubb and by Lewis Aspinall for this one. And we're going to preview what is another massive game for Arne Slot's Reds. We always start by talking about the opposition. We've just been chatting off air. Dan, they are a basket case of a football team. If you look at all their recent results, including last night in the League Cup game, Tottenham Hotspur at this moment in time are the most unpredictable team you can think of. They go from getting beat 4-3 by Tottenham to drawing with Rangers to battering Southampton within 20 minutes to being 3-0 up against Man United and then end up winning 4-3. They lost at Bournemouth. They drew at home to Fulham, 10 men Fulham as well. Like, I have got no handle on what Tottenham are. Usually I can sit here and say to you, it's this, and this. They are the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team.
Yeah, you're not entertained by it though, mate. No, they are. All of those things you just said there. They're the good, the bad and the ugly. Sometimes over the course of a passage of play, let alone sort of a number of weeks and months in a proper football season. It's wild. It's a great watch for the neutral. Let's get that out there straight away. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that game last night. Yeah. And one thing you can sort of say with certainty around Spurs is that word fun, entertainment. You know, they are all of that, definitely. He does have a brand and a philosophy, but that brand and philosophy lends itself to chaos, basically. Certainly when you've got, we'll touch on sort of the missing personnel, when you've got some of your key components, certainly from a defensive point of view, missing, it does lend itself to just utterly wild games of footy. So, yeah, you're right. There is no sort of discernible, put your finger on, that's what you're going to get from Spurs in terms of the actual results or consistency, because that just doesn't exist there right now. The only thing you can sit here and say is they're going to be attacking and they're going to fancy themselves and they're going to have a go, and that's not really going to change.
No, absolutely, Lewis. Let's do both then. We'll do positive and negatives of the opposition. Let's start with the positives of Tottenham. They've got goals in their team, and they're desperate to score them. You know, in Son, Solanke, Johnson, Kulusevski, James Maddison, they've got players who can score a goal. And like I say, if you look at the last few results, just as a clarity, so they scored 4 against Man United, they scored 5 against Southampton, 3 against Chelsea. Like, but they struggled to score at Rangers. They weren't great at Bournemouth. But what you do know, if you get hot Tottenham Hotspur, for lack of a better phrase, they have got players who can punish you.
Yeah, Kulusevski as well. I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he's absolutely class at what he does, cutting inside, creating play. And I think last season I made the comparison to Tottenham saying that they felt very early Jurgen Klopp, but I think in actuality it's more that Brendan Rodgers 13-14 season where it's just, we don't give a shit if we concede 3, we'll score 4. And I think that it does produce exciting football, especially with those attacking players. But at the same time, there's big gaps to get at. And while I do think they are going to go out there gung-ho and try and commit men forward, score them more goals, there is vulnerabilities despite having players like James Maddison and Solanke in there.
What they can do, then, they can find a way out of trouble. Ultimately, that's what they've been doing. And we'll touch on the weaknesses later. They've got defensive injuries. They've got a lot of suspensions and stuff like that. But what they can do, they can say, yeah, we can score 4 goals in any game. Yeah. And actually, they've got the players to do that. You know, I mentioned before, Son's starting to get back into a bit of form, scoring goals regularly, had a bit of a dry patch. Brennan Johnson's actually been scoring goals pretty much all season. Lewis is right, Kulusevski's really come into form and he's probably their informed player. Dom Solanke does score goals. So it feels like, again, you go back to it, you're not entertained. And just philosophy at the moment in time is, we aren't the most solid team in the world, but we're going to blast our way through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's his mantra and sort of his MO, generally speaking. But I think right now, in terms of when we're catching Spurs, obviously we'll play them again in a few weeks' time in the Cup, with the defensive absences that they've got, he's looked at what he's got and gone, well, I've got strength in attack, so let's sort of double down on that. And it very much is that we'll score one more than you philosophy, is that attack is the best form of defence philosophy. And I think we see all that last night, really, because when it went 3-2 and you thought for a moment, okay, this is a little bit nervy, albeit the goal comes from a corner, they go up the other end, literally direct from a corner. They go up the other end and score from a corner, you know what I mean? And you think sometimes, I think there was only a handful of minutes to go in the game. A lot of managers might have gone, fucking hell, it's 3-2. Let's get another centre half on. Let's try and make this tight, you know what I mean? Not him, not his side, because they're not that way inclined. They're not that way drilled. They don't do anything on the training ground that suggests that. It doesn't look like anyway. And I think there was a game recently, one of the Europa League games, I think they were playing Rome, I think I'm right in saying, and they were tight in that game. It might have been 1-0 or 1-1, whatever it was. And Brennan Johnson turned back to go back towards the defence and like play the pass into whoever the centre half was. And I remember vividly Ange coming out after the match and saying, I don't want that. I don't like that. And you think he's just trying, Brendan Johnson in game is trying to manage that game, and his manager is going, no, go forward, go at it. And it just speaks to what we're saying here in terms of their gung-ho and sort of never say die attitude towards scoring goals. And I think right now, actually, it's doing them a lot of favours because of defensive fragility they have got. But again, you mentioned there, some of the players, Son's exceptional. I think he had a real dip start of the season. Kulusevski, you said, I think he's come on leaps and bounds. I thought he was a good player. I think he's now a really, really, really good player. Obviously, Solanke's chipping in, Ben and Johnson. I think with Charlton still missing. But yeah, they're top heavy, so go for it, I guess.
I suppose, like I say, any team has got wrap on this one. We're not extending it too much, but like if a team can score 4 against Manchester City, he can score 3 goals against Chelsea. I know, 4 against United, 5 against Southampton. Not all great defensive, I understand that. But obviously, they've got goals in the team, so that's something that Liverpool need to worry about. I want to touch on Kulusevski, actually, Lewis. I'll come back to you. And we'll touch maybe in a minute about how Liverpool maybe go about defending that side. But it does feel like in the past, we've played Tottenham, we've always feared... for a while, it was the Kane and Son link up a little bit. Son scored loads of goals getting in behind. It feels at this moment in time like probably Kulusevski is the biggest threat. Like if you can do a job on him, listen, the other ones are really good players, but it feels like a lot of Tottenham's best moments come because of Kulusevski at this moment in time.
Yeah, he feels a bit, and it's not to say he's that level, but he feels a bit like the De Bruyne of that Tottenham team, where it feels like if you get the ball to him, he'll make something happen. He's the creator and the goal scorer.
He's also very quick, powerful. Like he's
powerful's the word. Yeah. He goes past people. Not necessarily. He did it last night once or twice, and people just can't stop him. Not because of his pace, but because he's just bigger and stronger than most defenders almost.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of those situations where I'm looking at it and thinking, I wish Konate was still on this team. I feel like he'd have a real good time against Kulusevski. And I think that we've seen in the Fulham game in particular where defensive fragilities on our side, not to put too negative a spin on it, but it seems like Kulusevski, the form he's in at the minute, could cause a real problem with his attempt to run in behind. His actual passing and play is fantastic. And he links up really well with everyone. It feels like he's not got a sort of set position. He starts off on the right, but he often finds himself in the middle. And he's a player that Liverpool are going to have to try and take out of this game because he can cause a nightmare, and he links up so well with everyone in that Tottenham front line. That are we going to see our midfield come back to try and deal with him? Is it going to be leaving to the defenders kind of job? He's one of those people you just need to take out of the game.
He's a problem. He's a real problem.
Rowan says here, I want to chat, you've got to be careful against Spurs because if you start slow, they have the capability to punish you. And that's actually what they've done in recent games, Dan. Like, they are quick out the blocks, and Liverpool, not always the case. Like Tottenham, from minute one, they're looking to get at you and get ahead. They did it, again, famously Southampton, they did it to Manchester City away. Like, they are a team who can go bang, bang really quick, and before you know it, it's the 20th minute and you're 2-0 down.
Yeah, and again, that lends itself to a point Lewis made earlier on about being sort of previous incarnations of Liverpool teams, because we did that a lot, didn't we, back in the day under certain managers. So yeah, it is very much that. But again, I just think it's the way Ange wants his team to be. There is no backward step taken, really. That's not what they do, whether it be minute 1, minute 91. It's just total go at it. Let's try and score as many as we possibly can football. And again, as a neutral, it's definitely got sort of its joys and its merits. If I was a Spurs fan, there's almost like a shelf life to that sort of footy. We're not going to go too deep into what it's like to be a Spurs fan, obviously, but it feels like it's great to watch, and it's worth paying your money to go and see because it is fun. But then ultimately, what's tangible at the end of it? Hopefully nothing, really, because we've got them in a cup and stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of this game at the weekends, we'll have to be on it the whole way through, because one thing you can't do, whether it be, again, early doors, and you can't start slowly because Spurs will punish you for that, but whatever the game state, it feels like you can't rest on your levels.
Yeah.
Because you could easily get 2-0 up in this game and think, okay, that's job done. And we've been really good at that this season, keeping teams at arm's length. I'm not sure this weekend will allow us to do that.
Yeah, you're going to have to go again. The negatives, let's talk about the Tottenham negatives. We've half brushed across them as we've done it. First of all, Dan, the injury situation is really poor for them. Slash suspensions, because it's worth mentioning, Bentancur isn't injured. He's suspended for some comments he made, ironically, about one of his own teammates. But obviously, they've got the issue in goal. Let's start with that. We all watched Fraser Forster last night. I've seen Fraser Forster against Liverpool play some absolute blinders. But that was a man yesterday who, you talk about fish out of water. Fraser Forster's game is catch it, save it, kick it, throw it long. Yeah. That man can't play football. And at this moment in time, it's going back to the end of the positive and negatives. He's asking his goalkeeper to do something he's not really good at. And within a space of a couple of minutes against Manchester United yesterday, it really bit him in the arse. And afterwards, you could tell his head had gone. He was saving it with his feet. He was making mad decisions. It was all a bit bananas. Now, Vicario's been suspect at set plays. Forster probably isn't going to be that as much because you're a big, strong goalkeeper. He's massive.
He did it a few times yesterday, punched out.
Comes and clay. He's huge. But obviously the playing football thing was a real concern yesterday.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a major problem. And it's even more of a problem against a team like us that will sort of sense a weakness there and sniff a little bit of blood. We press often anyway in that sort of manner, obviously, but I think having seen that this last night, I think we're even more inclined to go at the keeper whenever he's got at his feet, because I don't think Ange Postecoglou will tell him to sort of suddenly get rid. It's interesting how the second goal actually comes from him trying to get rid. It just so happens to be charged down. He's going long with that.
Yeah, but he took about 10 minutes to make it.
But again, I think his head was frazzled by that point as well, because he's got instructions to do one thing, but his whole natural instincts, because he's a bit of an old school goalie, isn't he? He's 37, I think I'm right in saying. His whole sort of upbringing through academy ranks would have been keepers are there for a few things. Catch it, you said there, kick it long and save it. He's quite good at all them. But it's the other element of it now that he's been asked to do that's so out of his comfort zone. And I think he is going to be in goal at the weekend. Vicavio's not going to be back. And his head and how he sort of gets over it in these next 48 hours, whatever, it's going to be really fascinating, because early on, don't be shocked to see whether it be Darwin, Gakpo, Diaz, Salah, whoever, really go on him. Like a million miles. And that'd be the right call, by the way, because test him. Test where his head's at. Does he want to do this? Has he got a hangover from what happened last night? And you could have to imagine the answers could be yes.
It's worth mentioning. I think he's a good. He made some great. I watched them against Rangers actually in the Europa League a few weeks ago, and like
the fundamentals of being a goalie is actually quite good.
He made some really good saves, so he's got that going for him. Defensively, then Lewis. Let's move on to the defence. They are injury ravaged, to say the least. There's definitely no Romero and Van der Ven and Davies. And then Udogie is 50-50, didn't play yesterday. He's still a bit of a doubt. I don't know quite where he was a doubt for yesterday, so maybe Sunday gets him close. And he's actually been quite good for them, so there's another option. But they are struggling at the back. They're down to... makeshift would be kind. And yesterday, by the way, it's worth mentioning, they put pretty much their full team out, what they could. It was Porro and Spence at full-backs with Dragusin and Gray at centre-half. They're struggling for defenders.
Oh, massively. And there was a lot of vulnerabilities he showed. Passing around the back, we've already said about that. You can tell that it's just not something that's instilled in them in this system, which is weird because they've got the second most possession in the league somehow. It's such a weird concoction of how they actually play, but Dragusin does not look comfortable on the ball. Gray is thrown into all sorts of midfield positions. Really? Exactly. He's
played a bit of right back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
He's getting thrown around all over the place. Porro and Jed Spence are two good players if they actually feature in this, which I imagine they will. But the big thing that they struggled with yesterday was when Xerxes came on, they were poor in the air. Every ball that went up in the air, Xerxes was winning it. And I think that's something that we've touched on Nunez already, pressing down Forster if he does start. I think he'd have a field day in that department against them because they're not exactly tall players. There is a lot of space in behind them like we saw yesterday. And if we're putting pressure on that back line, they're going to shit it again. They're not capable at the moment of composing themselves when there's players pressing them to pick the right pass. It either goes straight to Forster, who's lumping it long, or they're lumping it forward to one of the 7 attacking players they've got. So while we do give Ange grief, I think, at points for not game managing, for not changing the way he wants to play, if you've got that heavy in attack with a defence like that, sometimes the best option is just look, attack, lump it as long as you can and get it to the players who can keep hold of the ball. That's pretty much what they've been doing. That is right. That's what they've been doing. Midfield-wise, interesting, because actually they've got some good players. Again, Bentancur, I think, is a miss. Yeah. He's probably the biggest defensive mind. The one, Basuma and Sarr will sit, and it'll probably be James Maddison in the 10. He was in and out for a while, wasn't he? But now he's back. And then it's a case of what he wants to do. Brennan Johnson was in the team for ages. He seems to have found himself maybe out of it a little bit now with Son and Kulusevski playing well. That's a key one, really, because if they are going to be so makeshift at the back a little bit, there's so much pressure on Sarr and Basuma to stop teams getting through. And actually, they haven't really been able to do that in recent weeks. Like teams have found it pretty easy to get shots at Tottenham's goal.
Yeah, they have. That's been sort of borne out in the numbers, whether it be goals or even like expected goals against. All that sort of stuff doesn't sort of read particularly well for Spurs. And I think it's part and parcel due to the personnel and what they don't have at their disposal. That's definitely a point. It's also Ange's identity and what he wants his teams to be and what they want them to look like. But also the full, you mentioned there, obviously Sarr and Basuma, like the fullbacks of attackers. Generally speaking, like the amount of space they lead, they can be wide open in those wide areas as well. If they carry on with that over the weekend, that'll be interesting to see Salah with wide open grass to run into. Likewise, Gakpo or Diaz, whoever ends up on the left. I think that could be a real area we target because they just vacate those areas and they're adventurous and they bomb on and they wander into midfield sometimes as well, certainly Porro. So, yeah, there's a lot of work for those two defensive minded midfielders to do. You'd actually want, potentially, if you were Spurs, you might want more James Maddison types in there who can look after the ball and make sure you can't be hurt because you're the ones with a lion's share of possession. Maddison's a wonderful footballer, great vision, scored a couple of the goals recently. He's a threat for me because when you do have the firepower of Solanke, Kulusevski, Son on the other side, if Maddison sees a lot of the ball, you've got a problem. But in terms of what's going the other way, I think we can overrun that midfield because I think Sarr's decent, I think Basuma's decent, but that's not enough to shield what can at times become a back three at most. That's a real problem for Spurs.
If you're asked Liverpool, they all want Udogie to not play. I'm not that you'd ever wish injury on someone, but I think that'll be something that, I think he's a very good...
Spencer's at a position at left back. He was a right back.
That's what I'm saying. I like Porro and I like Udogie. I think they're both good players. If he's missing as well, then they add down to the bare bones. Reguilon's on the bench, but his best days are probably behind him. And just definitely got defensive issues. We are all I've sat here and we've gone, yes, Spurs are a basket case. But any team without that, with that much of a makeshift back four, you would be thinking, like Liverpool have had defensive injuries. Spurs is actually one further than that. They're really, really struggling. It was a little bit like the League Cup team that we had to put out the other day. It was almost kind of where Tottenham were at, and that's just where they're at.
Just quickly, you mentioned it a moment ago, the fact they did go full strength last night, and obviously it finishes 4-3, so that suggests they went full strength and had to go the whole way full strength. You know what I mean? Like when it was 3-0, you thought, okay, maybe they can take the foot off the gas a little bit here, maybe it's game over, whatever. That never obviously came to pass. So they've asked lads to go week in, week out, and they've asked them to go for 90 plus minutes again. And it was Thursday night, we're playing Sunday. Like there's not a lot of rest.
I was about to say Thursday, Sunday, and that's Lewis, and he only made because they were so comfortable. But in the end, because Man United make the comeback, like Tottenham only made 3 subs, and you look around just bench, it was all kids. So he managed to get Solanke, Maddison and Spence off, but Kulusevski played 90, Son plays 90, Basuma, Porro. Like, there's lads there, Sarr, who Liverpool get the joy of Wednesday with basically relatively half a team, and he makes loads of subs, slots, which kind of informs what his thinking is for the weekend, perhaps. Tottenham have had to go full pelt on a Thursday. Yeah. Obviously, no travel, I understand, but that is an issue for them. That's a massive advantage for Liverpool, really.
Yeah,
so it should be
huge. And I think Ange has made a rod for his own back with this whole I always win trophies in the second season thing. And I think that's why he's done this, why he's committed this full strength squad. And he's done it to himself. I understand it's a huge game. You want to win it. It gets to the semi-finals, win that trophy since like 2008. But at the same time, if I was him, I'd be thinking, right, what do Tottenham fans want? Do they want us to go out in the Carabao Cup when there's still 2 other competitions we can compete in? Or do they want us to go full strength in this and then play a week inside against Liverpool and potentially get smashed? Like, I feel like while it's all well and good...
I actually think it's probably the trophy.
I think the trophy.
If you said to Tottenham now, Tottenham fans 8th, but you win the League Cup, I think they'd all take that.
I think any circuit apart from relegation, they bat your hand off. Genuinely, that's where they're at. Yeah. It's a more than valid point, by the way. But I think the trophy is the answer.
I think they do. I think they are desperate for the trophy, but at the same time, you need to look at this and think that when that game on Sunday is not going to be a Southampton, it's not going to be an Ipswich. It's Liverpool, top of the league, top of the Champions League, who are going to go for it and put in full energy with a rested squad. Surely in his mind, I understand it's a really tough game they're in. It's bare bones. I understand they're a very thin squad. But surely you had to look at that and think, maybe Son does need the rest. He is in his 30s. Maybe Maddison, who is injury prone, needs to come off.
His game plan was going really well until it wasn't.
That's what I mean.
It was win the game, get them all off, and then it didn't work. And it come back and bit them on the backside. Hopefully Liverpool can take advantage of all these issues. We're going to speak after this quick break about Liverpool team news, injury updates, all that good stuff. To go into the break, I've got a trivia question for you two and everyone watching live on YouTube right now. The last time Liverpool played Tottenham away in a December fixture.
Okay, go on. Yeah.
2-2 draw in December 2021.
Okay.
Which Liverpool player got an assist and scored a goal in that game? So Liverpool scored 2 goals in December 2021 against Spurs. The same player got an assist for the first goal and scored the second. Do you remember who it was? We'll be back with the answer to that and a look at Liverpool's team news after this quick break. See you in a sec.
Hey, week 3 of our incredible festive giveaways over from redmenplus.com. This week we're going to be giving away Soccer Stars, Jeff Twentyman's book, Jeff Golding Stanley Park book, and a top prize, this by Peter Kenny Jones, the Tommy Lawrence book, signed by none other than the author himself, by George Scott and by George Sefton as well. Get involved by heading to redmenplus.com, signing up as a Legend tier subscriber or upgrading your current subscription to get your name in the hat for those daily draws. Don't forget though, stick around, Christmas still to come. Signed Kenny Dalglish shirt could be yours as well.
Yes, welcome back. Redmen Legends will get in every single prize draw. We're doing 2 of them in a moment actually as well, but there's still time to sign up. Go to redmenplus.com. Join as a legend, and on Boxing Day we'll be giving away that signed Kenny Dalglish shirt to one of you guys. So yeah, good luck to everyone who's involved. For those of you who aren't, sign up at redmenplus.com. Be a legend. Get all that amazing extra content. It's like this, but more of it. Yeah, redmenplus.com, the place to go. Trivia question I bought some time for you is there. December 21. Goal and an assist for Liverpool in a 2-2 draw. I will let you know now. There's a couple of people in the chat who got it right.
Okay, no pressure.
Lewis.
I was going to say Henderson, but I think I might be...
I would say Bobby Firmino.
No, you're both wrong. It was Andy Robertson. Set up the first goal for Diogo Jota and scored the header as well.
Okay,
So there you go. The correct answer was Andy Robbo. Well done to Youssef, Footy Bite, Ash, Clive, that you all got that one.
It's easy to do when you've got Google.
Yeah, maybe so.
I'm not accusing anyone.
Maybe so. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that is or isn't the case, but that mad 2-2. Do you remember our team had COVID? And we had to put out an absolute...
Tyler Morton played.
We had to put out an absolute...
I don't think Henderson played. I think he was one of the ones.
He might have been one of the ones who had COVID.
Yeah,
we put out an absolute basket case of a team.
It's dawned on me now what game that... Well, we play Spurs all the time.
The only one I can think of during COVID was the late Bobby Winner at Anfield. That's the only...
Tim
Yeah,
Sherwood.
that's
So
the
this was
only
the year
one I can
after.
think
It was
of.
like there was... Yeah, it was basically half our team had coronavirus at the time.
Yeah. Tyler Morton, yeah.
I think even... Yeah, I'll bring it up on the screen. Liverpool's 11 in that game. Just for, why not? We're here. Konate, Robertson, Matip, Trent, Milner, Keita, Morton, Mane, Salah, Jota, but then the bench, Tsimikas, Nico Williams, Joe Gomez, Quanta, Chamberlain, Firmino, Minamino, Gordon.
Quansah?
Was the Quansah on the bench then?
I would never.
That's how young he was, though. Like he wasn't.
Yeah.
It's a different time, but yeah, that's what Liverpool's game. Liverpool were actually leading in that game 2-1 at one point, and then Son equalised. So yeah, there you go. The answer was Andy Robertson. Right then, prize draw time. One sec, Joe, don't bring it up just yet while I check what the prize is. The first prize we're going to give away right now is 4 official LFC soccer stars. So if you're one of our Redmen Plus legends, you're going to click this right now. You can bring it up now. And congratulations, well done, Mr. or Mrs. LFC Norway. Well, I can gather where the postage...
Where's that going?
Oh, there's a bigger postage bill. Congratulations, some soccer stars are on the way to Norway. Mr. or Mrs. LFC Norway, you could be any of those. Right then, the next prize we're going to give away is a copy of Mark Sweatman's book, A Labour of Love. If you're into Liverpool's banner culture and all that kind of stuff, and want to know the ideas and how they're made and all that good stuff, then Mark's book is fantastic. So I'm going to give that away. Spin the wheel, well done, congratulations. I am sending a book at
LFC
some point.
Bahamas, there you go.
To Red Faye, congratulations Faye, the copy of that book is on its way to you. Just to clarify what prizes we've got left, we've got some prints from the amazing artist Kali, friend of the show. We've got a Mo Salah Egyptian King t-shirt. We've got a copy of Peter Kenny-Jones' book signed by Liverpool legends such as Gordon Wallace and George Scott. A David Fairclough Super Sub signed shirt and a Kenny Dalglish signed shirt as well. They're coming your way. Some boss prizes there. Too good, if anything. I don't know why we're giving those away.
About the Kenny one, by the way. I'm joking.
Yeah, we might just rob that. We've had a super chat, by the way, off Old Man Dego, saying, I'm looking forward to the game, lads. By the way, I met Dan in the gym on Sunday and it made my day.
Hello, lad. Yeah, you did, mate. Hope you're well. Yeah. Spotted I was.
Spotted.
Yeah, sounded a nice chat.
Like a wild animal.
Yeah, we had a good little chat about the match. His post full and watch long. Yeah, it's good.
Was you papped?
Oh,
do you remember the day? It was like...
I was a bit embarrassed.
You got those magazines when you go, I spotted such and such. Like, there was an X's episode where Les Dennis phones it up himself and he says, like, I've just spotted Les Dennis and he's phoned, like, Heat magazine. Like, that was, yeah, we're getting papped around. I got stopped in Co-op the other day, and some guy he went, you're the lad who does the watch alongs. I went, yeah. And he went, so, I go when I don't go to the game or I can't find the stream. He's been illegal. I won't name his name. He said, I tune into you guys to keep me up to date. I went, oh, nice one, mate. He went, yeah, you're really good. I love that black guy though. That's what he said. I don't think he knew Errol's name. He just knew he was the black guy. But it was an interesting conversation. I didn't know how to. There was a million ways I had to respond. My first one was that's Errol, and then then it was like, thanks for saying you like someone else better than me on the own show.
Appreciate it.
Having stopped me at the cost machine.
You didn't need to add that bit.
No, he could have said that.
Was sound.
Yeah, he could have said I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that'd have been enough. Yeah, love the stuff.
Yeah, we had some weird ones. Chris got stopped in the swimming bath once. He was mid-swimming.
Oh, was he actually in the pool?
He was in the pool, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, doing lengths, and someone stopped him and said he watched them.
Somebody the other week when I was at the North West Football Awards, we won, by the way, just FYI. I was walking back to my table and a fella was at the bar and he stopped me and he said, "You're my," I can't remember how I phrased it now, so it was like, "You're my company on the way home." But that was the first thing he said to me, and I was taken aback because I was like, "What does that mean?"
Is that like get your coat pulled?
You're accompanying me on the way home, and I went, I must have looked at him like he had 10 heads, and he went, "The podcast," like, "Oh yeah, sound mate, yeah," because I love it. I was like, "Oh fine," but honestly, that initial sentence,
I disagree. I think he started to chat you up.
And then panicked.
And then realised you're not interested.
Okay,
and then changed. He's like,
oh yeah.
That's like the 2024 version of grab your coat you've pulled.
Yeah,
you're coming home with me, lad.
It happened in the blink of an eye, obviously, because it was that short interaction. But that first, I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then it all made sense.
I don't face these problems. I'm just.
If you recognise Lewis out and about, he isn't homeless.
What's your address?
This might fail otherwise, but honestly.
You might get confused, say hello to Lewis if you spot him out and about as well. Then make him feel good about himself. That was a very, very somber moment there. I don't get that myself.
I don't get it. It's fine.
It's better than.
I prefer.
It's better than what happened to.
Better than being told other people are better than me.
Yeah.
I was alright with it. Errol's great. I can live with it. Right then, let's get back to the game. Get back onto Liverpool. Injury update from Arne Slot today was everyone except Bradley and Konate is fit and available in training, which is a massive bonus. Liverpool have weathered the injury storm. They've had a couple of wobbles. They're nearly at the end of it, but they're not quite there yet, Lewis. In midweek, the manager didn't play a second of Virgil van Dijk. Didn't even take him. Didn't even get a sniff of going down, which is an absolute right move. Alexander-Arnold plays, comes off a half-time. Joe Gomez plays, comes off a half-time. Andy Robertson couldn't play, suspended. Yeah. And then Kostas Tsimikas gets half as well. So the manager's actually got a fair few options there in what we're going to do. So Van Dijk plays, Gomez plays next to him, we know that. Yeah. Trent's going to have to play because there's no one else at right back at this moment in time. The decision is what the manager does at left back. He's got Andy Robbo coming off, a red card and a few iffy moments at times against the returning to form and returning to fitness Kostas Tsimikas. Whoever it is up against Kulusevski. What do you think the manager will do, and what would you do at left back?
See, it's a tricky one because on one hand, I think Robertson, the past few games, in particular the Fulham game, he just doesn't quite look up to pace. And my concern is this is a Tottenham team with overlapping fullbacks like Porro's got a lot of pace, Kulusevski, who I think at points can turn anyone inside out. If it was down to me, I think I'd probably be starting Robertson just because of the rest he's had, because he can still provide. But I do think the slot might maybe pick Tsimikas. I think getting him the 45 minutes might have just been enough to sort of give him a bit of momentum going into it. And I think Tsimikas probably defensively at the moment, not overall, is just looking a little bit more solid than Robertson has been in recent weeks personally. I
would play Tsimikas. I think he will play Robertson. We're on the flip. The reason I'll say mine.
Go ahead.
I understand it's not Robbo had an injury before he got the red card as well. He got wellied and the guy should have been sent off. But it is what it is. But I think we saw Saka have a little go at Robertson and get some joy.
Madueke as well.
Madueke, yeah.
Tyler Dibling, if you want to go that side.
As well. Gives the penalty against Real Madrid. Tottenham's best player is over there. Mm-hmm. If Tsimikas is fit and available to do an hour, and then you've still got Robbo off the bench, maybe, I think that's the way I would go. But and the fact that Robertson's basically had all of the Fulham game and then midweek off suggests he's probably going to come straight back in.
I would imagine so. And
what would you do?
I'd be Robertson.
Okay.
And I think on a slot with Robertson as well for a lot of the reasons you just outlined there in terms of where he's at. And I think it was good to get Tsimikas 45 minutes in midweek, but I just feel that's building up to be involved again and being ready to be involved again. I'm not sure it's ready to be involved again this weekend, if I'm being really honest. So, yeah, I would definitely be Andy Robertson. And I think a nose put out a joint Andy Robertson is a really positive thing. I think he'll want to come into this game and be up for the challenge and prove any doubters
like he did against
wildly inaccurate again. Yeah, exactly. Because I think he came out, I think I might say in the Times might be a little bit skew with, but prior to that Villa game, it felt like he came out and said, I'm aware of some of the criticism, don't write me off, basically.
Yeah,
that's kind of more words
rightfully
than that,
so,
but you know what I mean? And I think he'll be in a very similar boat now. And you've just said it there, Tottenham's most informed player is, for me, Kulusevski. He'll want to show us that he's not finished, and he'll want to show us that he's still got a hell of a lot more to bring and a hell of a lot more to offer. He's definitely out of sorts. He was man the match in midweek against Girona, so take that into account as well.
Yep.
He's got a mixed bag of a record at Spurs. We spoke earlier on about a really good game. He was sent off there when he wellied Harry Kane. He wellied, I think I'm right in saying. He definitely whacked
the way
someone.
around.
He got
whacked by Harry Kane.
But then he got sent off by hitting. So who did he kick it? Anyway, whoever it was, he got sent off later on that same game. So yeah, he'll want to show us. I think he'll want to put in a proper performance that tells us all that he's nowhere near done, and he wants to stay and fight for his place. He wants to be Liverpool's left back for the foreseeable. So yeah, I'd be Andy Robertson for all those reasons. And ultimately, I think some of the criticism of his form has been a little bit over-exaggerated. I'm in the camp that there is definitely a left-back conversation to be had, by the way, in the future. However, for now, I think Robertson has got enough credit in the bank and enough fire in his belly to show us that he's the man for the job.
Yeah,
because the other option would have been Gomez, but then I don't think the manager's going to play Gerald Kwanzaa centre-back. He's having a little bit of a rough spell as well.
Confidence
so,
look down.
I think it'll end up being Robertson. Midfield, I think, picked itself in two of the positions.
After midweek,
Gravenberch and McAllister both play. The manager's now got to decide Curtis Jones or Dominic Szoboszlai. Again, both of them had a nice little rest, indeed. They're both fit and available, ready to go. Harvey Elliott had a good game and played, but I don't think he's played himself into a starting role. Curtis Jones, again, mixed bag at Tottenham. He's definitely had that. McAllister, Gravenberch. Who's the third? Dan, for you, and who do you think Klopp will go for?
I'd be Szoboszlai.
You would go for that?
Yeah, I would. And I tend to think Arne Slot may do the same. Mainly because of the running power, I guess. And I actually think Szoboszlai's form, a lot of sort of the early praise of Szoboszlai, or pretty much the only exclusive praise of Szoboszlai, was around the shift that he put in and his work ethic and his ability to run from minute 1 to 90. I think actually what he's done in possession's gone up a few levels in recent weeks. So good, ultimately. I wouldn't be against any of them if truth be told. I'd be fine with whatever he chooses to do. I just think in terms of what this game's going to demand and in terms of what will sort of give us the edge in this game, it will be that added athleticism and that added ability to cover blades of grass. And I think with the wide open spaces, a big old pitch, as well, everyone always says it just is. I think Szoboszlai's added enthusiasm and added ability to get around will be a bonus. That's not to say Curtis can't, by the way. But I think Szoboszlai's got that over him personally. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I think, especially against that game against Man United, Basuma and Saab, the passing was a bit wayward. There was a lot of space that they were trying to pass into, and it was often being intercepted. I think Szoboszlai, with the pace he's got, the pressing he does, it's a great chance for him to intercept it and get things moving on the attack. And I view Curtis Jones as a bit more of a... He's a technician, and I think if we're in a position later on in the game where we are winning, we are controlling things, Jones coming on, dictating play, keeping things calm would be a good way, rather than Szoboszlai, who's going to maybe open us up a little bit more for his pressing. You want to get them at them early on, which we didn't do against Fulham, and I think Szoboszlai is just the best way to do it.
Yeah, I'm probably chief Curtis Jones fan club member.
You and Paul.
Me and Paul love Curtis Jones as a player and as a fella. He's fantastic.
Yeah, you sound, nothing against him whatsoever, but yeah.
But I'm with you. Szoboszlai's the best presser in the team.
Yeah.
And I think you can press Tottenham to death.
Is there a world where maybe McAllister doesn't start just because
the fact that he come off the other day?
I think he's imperative, mate, and I get it. Obviously, Ryan Gravenberch has had loads of flowers this season. Curtis Jones in some games had the flowers, and whatever, Sam Salah, obviously. But I think McAllister, not underrated, that's too far of a stretch. I think in terms of like most important players of this team, I still have him in there.
Oh, he's fantastic.
I know that, but I mean in terms of like he doesn't get the headlines.
I get you.
He's very rarely the star of the show.
Yeah.
But he's so good and he makes us tick and he's such an important cog in that midfield machine. I'd start him whenever he's available, more or less.
Okay, let's talk about up front then, because again, Liverpool have got all 6 of them back. They're all available, which is fantastic news. Having gone through for a while with just 4 of them. Obviously, Jota and Chiesa are now back and available. Obviously, different stages of the recovery and whatever. But let's talk first about what happened in midweek then, Dan. Darwin Núñez scores. He got an assist the week after Arne Slot again. Was keen to big him up today. But he did play the entire game. The manager didn't even sniff Luis Diaz or Mo Salah being there. And Cody Gakpo got taken off after an hour. Does that suggest that it's going to be Salah, Gakpo and Diaz as your front 3 with a bench of Jota, Núñez and Federico Chiesa? Or you're not reading too much into that?
I'm not reading loads into that, if truth be told, no. There's Salah coming back in, we may as well.
Well, Salah plays.
We'll start with that. He picks himself, doesn't he? And even if he wasn't picked, he'd still walk out there anyway. So yeah, he's on. He's starting the game. In terms of the other 2, I'd like to see Diaz. I would like to see...
On the left or the front?
I feel on the left because I said earlier on about sort of the wide open space that they can leave over there, and I think Diaz might be the man to exploit that. And that's not to say Gakpo can't either, because I actually think Gakpo inverting and doing what he does in terms of cutting inside could actually expose even more weaknesses in the Spurs side. But yeah, just in terms of the space vacated, I think if you give Diaz that amount of room to run into and to sort of do what he can do, I think that's a real headache for whatever the defender is, whoever the centre half of every Dragerson or Archie Gray. So yeah, that would be my pick over on the left. Therefore, he's not going to go Gakpo up front. I don't see that at all, because he's been very reluctant. I think I might have said he's never done it, more or less. He might have interchanged a little bit, but in terms of a solid pick from Arne Slot as Gakpo as a 9, it just hasn't happened yet. And I quite like that, because it messed with his head, didn't it, quite frankly, last season. So yeah, I think I'd be picking one of our 9s. If Jota is ready to give me 60, 70 minutes, he's the answer.
He's played 10 and then half an hour. That's what Jota's had.
The problem was, just on that, is that what he said post Fulham is that didn't fill me with confidence that Jota is as close as we might want him to be, because it was like, because I think I expected him to start midweek after playing that cameo at Fulham, and Arne Slot basically came out and said he isn't really completely fit yet, so you're like, oh, and then he gets an amount of minutes in midweek. So yeah, I might be inclined, and we mentioned earlier on the space that Spurs leaving behind, like, let me see Darwin Núñez run into that, please, because that's a problem.
I think he's going to do Diaz, Salah, Gakpo.
Okay. Gakpo on the left, is that, and Diaz through the middle? Well, he said in the press conference, didn't he, that because someone asked him, what did you make of Diaz in the 9 position? Did you rate him? And he was like, he did well, and he is probably going to get more chances of it going forward. But he also touched on the fact that while Núñez does get criticism for his numbers, he has done well in the past week. And we've touched on the space, we've touched on out wide, they like to push forward. So Diaz running into that, I think Núñez causes headaches. And I understand, look, there's a narrative of he's not good at scoring, his composure, etc., but you've got an Archie Gray and a Dragerson as your backline who are poor in the air, aren't the quickest players, with a Basuma and Sarr in front of them who aren't the quickest players.
Give them Darwin.
Put him in there, pressing, running in behind. In the air, he's going to cause issues with what Szoboszlai and McAllister running into the box late to pick up those loose balls. There's so much space and so much opportunity, and if they shit themselves when Amad Diallo's running at them, Núñez running at them is going to be like a fucking 18-wheeler lorry coming at you. He's going to absolutely put the fear of God in them, so I think he's needed. It's
a shame, because if Jota could play, he just plays. It's just, we just don't know where he's at. I'm with you. If the fitness staff come and go, you can have Jota for an hour, then you just play him. And then you use your bench to rotate from there, because Jota's the best of them all for me. But yeah, you are right. You've got the post Fulham where he played 10 minutes and then wasn't quite at it. Although, to be fair, he looked sharp on Wednesday.
I think he looked dangerous when he came on. I do, but again, minutes in the tank wise, it's not screaming and ready for an hour to me.
Yeah, you're right.
You've got to manage him at this point.
That's 100%. Also true.
Yeah, we completely agree with that one. I'll get your score predictions later on in the show, guys. Before we do nip off, let's talk about the other fixtures in the Premier League. Starting tomorrow, if you're Manchester City, Lewis, and you're in a poor run of form, Aston Villa away isn't one that you'd be massively looking forward to. Now, granted, this isn't Aston Villa at their best. They're very up and down, and more down at the moment, to be truthful. But 12:30 at Villa Park, I bet Pep's like, I could do without this.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we saw last season, I think that was the first sign of this team's weaknesses being exposed. And Villa, yeah, they're not great, but they can turn over big teams. They can get those results. And honestly, I don't think Pep's up to this match. Maybe that's the wrong way of phrasing it, but I do see City dropping more points. Might be a bit optimistic, but Villa are so good off the ball. They're intense. The midfield, they often overload it. City don't have the legs or the players capable at the moment to match most teams in the Premier League. Not a Villa team who, yeah, they're not great in the Prem, but they've still got class players in that team. And Unai Emery's going to get the best out of them for this.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how City respond, because they're in a bad way.
They need to.
They've been, was it 1 win in
11?
They were horrendous against Man United. Man United were just as bad.
They were winning that game by pure luck, and the fact that United were crap.
It was basically two crap teams and then build up. But yeah, if Villa put the foot down and they've got an option to do so, then we'll see. But again, this isn't the greatest Aston Villa of all time. They're struggling for wins as well, and they're coming off the back of getting beat, aren't they, late by Nottingham Forest. Yeah. A game in which the goalkeeper made one of the best saves of all time, and they still lost. Elsewhere, then, interesting at top of the Crystal Palace away for Arsenal at 5:30. We saw Manchester City drop points there. We saw Arsenal again in the League Cup. It was I must admit, changed the Arsenal side. It's worth mentioning. And at one point they were behind, and then it's only an offside goal that got them back in front. So Are we expecting anything from Palace against Arsenal? Can the Eagles help us out again?
It's funny, isn't it? We had this conversation a good few weeks ago now, prior to the City game coming down there as well. And I always sort of circle Crystal Palace playing against one of our potential title rivals as you never know. And I'd probably do that again for
Especially
this.
R5.
Especially a Palace side that have improved in recent weeks. If you'd have said this to me 6 weeks ago, I'd have probably gone, Arsenal probably just steamroll them. But yeah, the kickoff time, same with the Villa City game, by the way. You just look at them because they're on the telly and you think, okay, that's something I can keep an eye on. So yeah, I do hold out some hope that Oliver Glasner's seemingly resurgent Palace side. And what Palace have got, a little bit of confidence back in them now, with a bit of belief that they can do something which is
physicality
nice.
As well.
Yeah. Physicality is one thing. They've got good ball players in
and
midfield, really like Adam Morton, and they've got threats. You need threats if you're going to beat a team like Arsenal City. And I think, with obviously Mateta scoring in midweek as well, that bodes well. So yeah, I'm not expecting Palace to do a job in terms of actually battering Arsenal, but drop points possibly.
And then Everton host Chelsea on Sunday. The takeover Blues, buoyant Blues back on their way to the top of the Premier League now. They've got rid of the owner and another one. It's interesting because there's a chance that when Liverpool kick off at Tottenham, Chelsea could be top of the league, which given obviously Liverpool's 2 draws against Fulham and Newcastle, added to the postponed derby, ironically. But Everton did do us a favour last week against Arsenal, and they've shown they can be defensively solid against a Chelsea team who can score a lot of goals and have got a lot of options. This feels to me either like a real tight game or Chelsea batter them. Like I don't see like
there's no in between.
Yeah, I don't see like Chelsea winning 1-0. I think Chelsea win like 4 or draw or something. I don't know, but yeah, we hold out our Blue Brothers can do it another quick favour and keep us top of the league.
Mate, honestly, to be
I
honest,
have no faith in Everton, by the way.
None of us had faith before the Arsenal game. I think you should say like 4-0 or something like that. Like, they can get these shot results, but
they can defend set pieces. That helps you against Arsenal.
Do a lot. Yeah. You can do that, you're laughing.
Yeah, if Crystal Palace can box that up on the weekend, you'll be sound.
Well, Chelsea against Brentford didn't look particularly convincing. They scraped that one, and I think Everton going into this, it might be a bit of a daft thing to say, but they've just had that takeover now that's been confirmed. There might be a bit more sort of energy in that squad to be able to get a result against Chelsea.
Sorry to interrupt, but certainly the fans.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
fans have been, down in the dumps, really, haven't they? They don't like Sean Dyche very much. They haven't liked the start of football. They've been waiting for this takeover for months and months and months. There's light at the end of that particular tunnel now. So in terms of the ground and what that might be like, I think you're right, yeah.
If Goodison can be Goodison. What I would say, I'm still waiting for someone to properly test Chelsea at the back. Everton at Goodison can do that in terms of the physicality. They will, again, talk about set plays.
Sanchez ain't great from corners and that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. My guess would be, again, we'll talk about Liverpool in a moment, I would be shocked if all of City, Arsenal and Chelsea won. I don't know which one will drop points, but they're 3 fixtures. You think someone's gonna.
Which one would you bank money on if it was?
I just want to have City. My God, I couldn't pick City against anyone. Never mind the tough game against Aston Villa, but I wouldn't be the biggest surprise. I was shocked when I realised that, obviously we were playing Fulham at the same time, and I realised Everton had got a point at Arsenal. That was a massive shock. None of these 3 would be like the biggest shock of all time.
Everton had a little bit of joy against Chelsea in recent times, I think I might say. I remember quite a weakened Everton team beating them at one point in the not too distant past. So yeah, and again, Ellis Sims scored or somebody mad like that. So yeah, I don't think it would be a major shock. Again, I'm not really expecting Everton to beat them, but a draw, I'd take a draw. Yeah, bite your hand off.
Yeah, Florian says, Steve, why have you been bumped off watch-alongs? I haven't. I've had a week off. Is basically all that's happened. I'm all on this weekend's one though. I'm in, but you've got Paul and Chris for that one. I think Touchwood Chris is feeling better, but I haven't been bumped off. Well, I was just literally I had a week off. It was my birthday, which is why I wasn't around. Speaking of the watch-along, we have got one again for Tottenham versus Liverpool, 4:30 kickoff. So we'll be live an hour and 20 minutes before, which is 3:10 with the build-up, and then right along throughout it. A game which is going to finish what scored, Dan Club?
3-2 Liverpool, and Mo Salah, Darwin Núñez, and Dom Szoboszlai scored a goal.
Hello.
I'm thinking 4-2.
Oh, mate, you know what? It's all right.
Was you? Yeah,
that's exactly what I've got. I think Salah is going to run them ragged, but they're so stupid and relentless, Tottenham, that they just keep going and going, and eventually I'd back them to Liverpool's away defensive record at the moment isn't fantastic.
I think we've got a point to prove as well going into this, because I think the worst thing is we don't want their ground to become this sort of our bogey ground. That makes sense. Like,
it wasn't until the
until
worst
last
referee
season.
performance of all
But
time.
that's what I mean. But we don't. I think the narrative now is we're going there for revenge for that. And I think if we go in there and get a result other than a win, it then becomes that sort of like City at Selhurst Park kind of thing where you can see us losing there whenever we turn up.
I think the absence of Klopp stops that narrative. In terms of the VAR goal and going there for that. Listen, as us fans, we'll talk about it with this. But I think if Klopp was there, the whole storyline would be going for revenge what happened there, but much less so because he's not around.
Absolutely. Footy Bad's gone for 3-1. Adam's gone for 4-1 here. I think everyone's expecting goals in this one. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for today's build-up. Like I say, come and join us on Sunday for the watch-along. Can't wait to see us all there as hopefully Liverpool can get back to winning ways by battering Tottenham Hotspur. I say winning ways, I mean in the league, you know what I mean. Right, thanks to Lewis, thanks to Dan, thanks everyone for watching or listening. Catch you on Sunday. See you in a bit.